Got the backup moving. Got the backup recording. Matt, thank you for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me, dude.
Before we get started on singing this intro music together,
Yeah.
it's nice to have you. Welcome back, just inside the two of us to the studio. Do you got our 80 minutes going here?
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to set up, and then I'm like, oh God, I'm going. I wasn't ready for you. Hey, yeah, I'm so glad to be here. Where am I? The studio. Hey.
Funny you do 800 minutes and we just do this for dozens
The
of
timer,
hours.
yeah. We just don't stop. We're like, you see us like slowly emaciate in front of the camera if you do a time lapse.
If we do an episode that long, though, I feel like the intro music shouldn't just be like 10 seconds. It should be like an hour.
No,
right?
it's like what is that German opera that they do? That's like hours long that one guy wrote.
We can make that happen.
Let's do it next time. But this time,
1, 2, 3.
we're the Neverending Becoming. Maybe we'll talk a little something. Stay for a minute. You won't want to quit it. Relax, and with it.
Oh, Matt, thank you so much for the first intro song.
I
Honored
did
to
it
have
so
you.
much better the first dozen times we did this. But yeah, that's what you get, everybody. I'm nervous. That was the first song I've ever wrote. Thanks, James.
Oh,
appreciate it.
in the studio. What better spot to do it?
Right.
I should have my Rick Rubin on right now. I should have like a long beard. I should have sunglasses.
I would love it one day to see you come in and just these thick, fat gold chains and just like those iced out glasses, and you're just like not taking anybody's shit. Don't say very much.
I think I'm still 48 months away from that type of behavior.
Until you're 48 years, until you're 48 years old, or what? That's
No,
good.
just two more years at this point. I think you need to have a studio for a couple of years, few
can't
years
wait.
before you're allowed to act that way.
Hopefully no gangland shootings around here.
We got some quick categories. I want to stick to that at the beginning of the pod. Make sure, you can.
I got to look for the I keep looking at your
Give a
camera,
little-
and that's not looking at me. I have this one and that one. So this person is like, why is he looking over there? It's because I'm getting used to the new feel, guys. I'm sorry. This is,
No, me too. And we actually have the monitors facing toward us, so we can be a little bit more conscious about what we're doing to make sure your singing career is going to take off correctly.
Jesus Christ. I was so excited. I'm like, I fucking got this. And then I fumbled the last line.
No, I mean we can
Sit back and relax and get with it. That was what it was. I just,
We'll fix it in post. We'll fix it in the post. I'll give you 1,000 more tries over the course of our lifetimes. How about that?
I'll take it.
But first category, just first thing that comes to mind, maybe association or descriptive, gourmet food.
I hate that I thought Gordon Ramsay right away. Like that's
No.
like, oh, I hate that I thought wow.
No, gourmet food, Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah.
I almost feel like maybe Gordon Gourmet. Somehow he's like brainwashing us,
Oh,
right?
totally,
Like his
yeah.
name makes you think about what he does.
Synonymous with gourmet food, Gordon Ramsay.
That's why I'm gonna change it to like Podcast Pete or something. Podcasting Pete Magoo. But okay, that was my first one. Second one, a little bit different. Tape.
Like Scotch or duck. I thought like, tape. Like actual Scotch
Sure.
tape. Don't you like how when I do this, I always hate what I think of? It's never what I want to think of. It's always literally the first thing, and it's always something super disappointing to me.
Do you feel like you're just as critical about what you choose to say on the pod in general? Like, are you constantly like slapping your wrist for?
Oh, in
topic
here, it's a
choice?
nightmare in here. Yeah.
Is it just that?
It's like a
critical
roulette.
analysis
It's a
thing?
roulette machine, and if it doesn't go fast enough, so I keep pulling it furiously till it comes out with the sevens. Yeah. No,
Well, we'll take a relaxed pace this episode.
no, it's good. It's good.
And-
It's just me. It's not you. It's not your beautiful categories. It's me. Scotch duct tape. It's very
No.
boring. I could have said like, I don't know, tape. Yeah, tape. Like record tape. I thought like recording like a tape recorder, and I thought that too, but it was just duct tape.
I'm asking about
first.
tape. How exciting could tape honestly be? I'm setting you up. This is me, man. I'm asking about gourmet food and tape.
And I'm dropping the ball.
All right, let me ask you a different one.
Let's go.
I got 5 we could do. I'm going to do 3 now, and then I'd like to hear some of yours. Systematic desensitization.
Whoa.
What was good?
FARC. I'm reading a book about that. It has moments of that, and it's about FARC, which is the Colombian resistance group FARC, and they're torturing like kids to join them, and it's this desensitization that they're experiencing over time. So it's a very thing that gets close to home.
Okay, you went from like too lame whatever to having this incredible acronym for like a Colombian resistance
FARC,
group
it's like
involves children. You made like the most opposite swing. It's like we wrote this. My God.
Well, that's how my brain works. Okay.
You wanted it. Do you want to give me a cat? You want to see?
I didn't have any good categories. I just,
Oh, you have topics.
Yeah,
right? Why don't you start us off with the first topic? You're the guest here. I'll let you take the stage. Grab the mic.
I know that part of the thing that we wanted to talk about was hobbies. So
Yeah.
we were just throwing things around. So I kind of went all in on hobbies, and I just wrote some things down because I didn't know that there was types of hobbies. That was a thing that I was interesting because I was like, oh, hobbies are hobbies. Actually, the first thing was
you mean badass, pointless,
exactly right,
impressive,
the term hobby
expensive
came up in 1676, which I thought was interesting because I was like, where did that even the word fucking come from? Like, who says hobbies?
1676.
1676. A guy named Sir Matthew Hale wrote it in a book, and he said everyone has a hobby horse of something, and it was like an idea of like a childish pursuit, which when you think about it, that is the perfect definition of a hobby. It's like a childish pursuit.
Yeah.
Right. So like, okay, so there's like it was like 4 categories, right? And like some hobbies obviously go into the multiple categories, right?
Let's hear the 4 categories of hobbies.
Collecting, making and tinkering,
Okay.
activity participation, liberal arts, and sports. Sorry, that's 5. That's 5. 4.
Counting is my hobby.
You know why? Because I wrote examples next to them.
Sports is bullshit. It shouldn't be its own hobby.
Sports
Shouldn't it be
but
the
it is.
activity one?
It is sports. Like people have the hobby of sport. That's their hobby.
Yeah.
Because like physical activity is not always sports with competition. Hiking, climbing, outdoorsy stuff. That's a hobby, but there's no competition involved. Because I thought the same thing. I'm like, isn't that active participation? But
I feel better about the classifications.
Yeah.
Though. So 1676, they came up with hobby. America came along 1776. Coincidence? Are we talking the ultimate hobby? Took 100 years to come up with the ultimate hobby. America.
Ironically enough, British people had it's where it came from, Britain, and then all the crazy hobbies.
Was it really?
So yeah, so America is British crazy hobby.
So considering the current state of America to just be a hobby, a childish pursuit, which of the categories would it fall under, you think? Would it be
making America? That'd be activity participation.
No doubt.
I would go with that. Little sport collecting. I mean, we did slavery for a minute, and that's
war
kind of gross.
is a sport.
Yeah,
it's the ultimate sport. Speaking of the
it
ultimate
is,
hobby,
right?
The ultimate sport being.
I mean,
war.
look at fucking football. Football is just a war in a coliseum. You know what I'm saying?
I like to think of it like a rock opera.
Yeah, that's more a lot of showmanship involved.
Football rock opera.
You should write a rock opera. Sorry, side. Yeah, just came to me. That'd be phenomenal.
How about I write a movie about a character that's writing a rock opera, like Forgetting Sarah Marshall?
Oh fuck!
You think that's?
I was wondering why I love that idea so much because I've seen that movie over a dozen times.
Is that where it's coming from?
I love it
on some level.
Yeah,
it's got it right, Jason Segel. You brought up How I Met Your Mother in the last podcast too, so it's your Segel standing.
I am a little bit. He's just so funny and charming.
Matt the Segel stan.
The Muppets.
You actually looked up legitimate parameters for what a hobby is, though. I like that.
Well, because like I'm a fucking nerd, dude. I have a lot of hobbies, or what I feel like are hobbies, and I was like, well, what do this word that I use all the time, like, what is it? Where did it come from? What does it mean?
Do you use the word hobby, though? Because I was also thinking about hobby in terms of how other people will call what you do a hobby, even if you don't consider it to be a hobby. Well, because currently I'm taking video creation, podcasting, audio production more seriously, and that's I've always thought of it more as a hobby, but now I'm trying to make it like more than a hobby.
Yeah, but you know what though? It is a hobby that I was thinking about that hits every category. It like really hits every category. I mean, you're doing activity participation, right? We're doing this. You could even consider this a sport in the way there is competition among other podcasts, and you are competing.
Then everything's a sport, though, right?
Sure. But I'm just saying, if I'm trying to make all 5 of these categories work, then I'm gonna try to make.
Actually, fuck that. No, we should get credit because we've done this podcast in the freezing cold, in like the burning hot outdoors, and you have to keep a certain respiratory health.
Even with
you have to be able to.
And we are collecting our ideas. You know what I mean? We're collecting our ideas and our thoughts for perpetuity, hopefully. And we're making and tinkering. We're literally making, and you're constantly tinkering with the video stuff and making everything work ever so nicely. Just so everybody knows, I've said it before. I don't do any of this. I'm still looking at that fucking camera. I don't do any of this. So
you did the singing. You sang. I mean.
And liberal arts, singing, reading, musicianship, that's, you do that. So it's literally, there's this never-ending becoming as parts of all these hobbies.
I'm sold.
So
I'm sold. It is the ultimate hobby. But what does it mean, though, when like a hobby can fall into all 5 categories?
Then you start making the money.
I'm
just kidding. No. I just thought it was interesting that like multiple hobbies have different categories. Like I'm a big comic book collector. Spoiler alert. But yeah, I love comic books, so I'm a big collector. You know, that's like my thing, collecting. I don't really have a making and tinkering one. You know,
it's more of a hard collection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I see that.
And I read. That's my other hobby that I love. I read.
You ever meet people that say like they don't have hobbies?
Yeah. Well, those are boring fucking people. I mean, like.
I feel bad for people.
That's not true because people work.
In America, in this like puritanical hard work culture, don't you think we're not allowed to have hobbies?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say.
In some ways,
yeah.
The opposite part of this argument is that millennials and Gen Z now live nothing but hobbies. They like actually don't, because I would make this argument too, that they don't do classically adult activities and that there's a sustained arrested development that's occurred in the millennial culture.
Arcade bars didn't exist like 10 years ago.
Arcade bars, amazing
You know
example.
what I mean? They just didn't exist. But, you know, now that people are like, I'm going to go to an arcade, but I also want to get fucking hammered.
Video gaming in general.
You know, absolutely.
You know,
video games have become an art form. I would argue anybody that point, you know.
Have we elevated this podcast to art form yet?
I mean, in my personal opinion, yeah. Because you know what though? Because we take artistic risks. You know, you take risks on this podcast. You don't keep the same fucking vanilla. I use that word already sometime. You don't use the same stuff. You don't play it safe. You take risks. Fucking singing the intro song. That's an artistic risk. In my opinion, I guess I'm tooting my own horn a little bit too much. But like, you know, I feel like...
Hey, I am HO too, man. I am HO too, in my honest opinion as well.
Right? It's just, I definitely feel like there is a level of artistry in this podcast that you specifically bring to the table.
Well... Trying. Gotta try to steward the ship. More or less in video game culture, can we say that this podcast, you'd be comfortable saying on camera here, that surpassed the entirety of gaming culture? That
No, God, no, I can't.
Turn your back on your love.
No,
how dare you?
That's a hobby of mine too. I would say gaming, dude.
We talked about... Before this podcast, we talked about how you also had hobbies that you were interested in, hobbies that you were going to go to in the future, maybe even one that you even dabbled your little tongue and toe in.
You know what's bullshit about this? This was my question for him, and he's totally turned it around. Turned it around. But
fine, ask me a different question about hobbies.
No, I'm not. I'm going to answer your question.
Okay.
Music. Yeah, what he was doing with that MIDI keyboard, I don't know that's what it's called, but whatever you want to call that bad boy over there. I've always had a love of music, and specifically like electronic music, and I've always wanted to be able to, like, you know, amateurishly play, you know, but it's just never been I've just never gotten into it.
Speaking of new hobbies, like being a producer, like a Ableton laptop type producer, that's a new thing.
It is
bedroom production.
I said it before. I was in GarageBand back in 2005, messing with GarageBand and like really working it. I was doing my podcast on GarageBand, where I would record it over, you know, GarageBand, and then I would put other songs in it. Like when I was president of radio, I think I've talked about this before, but like little did I know if I would have fucking stuck with that for like 10, 15 years, I could, you know, now I'm like, missed all that stuff, but now we're doing it.
You bring up an important point in all this, which is sticking through it in those 10 or 15 years where you're kind of socialized out of having that hobby, like being allowed to have that hobby.
This goes back to your point too, is having a hobby and having it last, and like making it something. Like if I would have stuck with that hobby for long enough, it could have been something, right? Sorry, I interrupted your thought.
No, I remember I made a video for my high school graduation party college graduation party that was playing like in the background, like by the bar area, whatever. So sort of like how different clubs or whatever will have their own graphics and whatnot on, like, you know, screens. I thought it'd be hilarious at the time. It was like this aquarium footage, like going underwater in a submarine. But then I had like Daniel Radcliffe as Harry Potter and like lightning bolts and all this like corny, ridiculous shit that I like just ripped off of YouTube basically. But I remember it like clearly took me a little bit of time to make this, and I like tried to put it on as like a background thing, but then everyone was like watching it, like thinking it was like a presentation piece or something. I'm like, no, this is like an hour loop of like insanity. See, it's not supposed to be that focused on. But I remember someone yelling at the time, like, get a job. Like, go get a job, you know, basically.
And they were over 50 years old, and they were
my age.
As a baby boomer. Wow.
They were my age, but I remember being a signal, like, you're not necessarily encouraged to spend a bunch of free time, like, making videos as you get older. Of course, unless this is taking photo of food that's helping market a restaurant that other people need to go to.
Gordon Ramsay's Gourmet Food. Yeah, totally. I mean, like...
But But hobbies
There's a lot of
in being
signaling.
pushed out in that 10 years,
Yeah.
basically from 15 to 25 when you're pushed out of your hobbies. And you lose all your hobbies. And then you only really regain hobbies sometimes when your child picks it up again. And then you get to kind of go around again on the hobby circuit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Luckily, actually, Harry's picking up video games pretty quick.
Yeah.
This kid loves Zelda Breath of the Wild. I feel like I talked to
We
him.
should get him on. You should get him on Bedroom Production then.
Yeah?
You should just start your music hobby with him.
Oh my God.
Like,
He would dig that. He
Get
would
the
definitely
keys
dig
and
that.
the beatbox.
Let him play. I remember
drum
Clementine
machine.
when she was a baby. She got on the piano one day and just was like rocking out chords, just slamming chords, and she sang me a song. And I remember just like listening to her sing the song, and it was like really good. And I was like, "What do you do it again?" And she just couldn't duplicate it. But it was just like she was really like it was purely a beginner's luck, and she just hit like a series of a couple of chords or whatever, and it sounded great. And I was like, man, maybe she should be a musician. But she can't carry a tune. Her voice is terrible. It was just one off there. So I'm just kidding. She'll never see this. It's fine.
No, I'm trying to think. At what age do you even have a shot of like checking aptitude for musical ability? Right.
And you ever see America's Got Talent where they have those 6-year-old girls going and singing full opera songs? I always worry though that the parents are just absolute.
Oh, worry!
nightmares.
Come on, that's what it's really
Parents
about.
are just nightmares.
At what age? I guess the better question is: at what age can you be taken seriously for that being your legitimate interest and not just a reflection of the parents' desires?
I think that involves
10?
skill, but it also has skill and your age, right? So if you're really skillful at something and you have a lot of talent at something, but you're 10 years old, you still could be really good at it, but like you're not gonna I don't know, like, you could be really good at something and then held in higher esteem, or you could be like 15 or 16 and still doing this hobby and you're just okay at it, right? But if you're more skillful at it earlier on, I think you have more opportunities. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. People then reinforce things, and obviously doors open.
Right.
For you with Harrison, would you ever do something like that, like on Instagram, where you're playing the drum machine with him and he's singing, or he's?
I do not like putting my kids on social media.
Okay.
It's like, I would. I'm not like, no, I'd never do that. Because I would, but I don't know, man.
Well, some of those parents, they're funneling the talented kids especially into the influencer lanes, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to get them to be.
Get you on the YouTube, get your 20,000 views, so when you pop out your video, you monetize that kid again. Yeah, I just can't.
DM the Ellen show. Try to
Not
get
anymore.
a
Hey,
spot
not
on
anymore.
Thursday.
Hey, Ellen got canceled.
Well, she's leaving, right?
We all know what happened. You can say what you want, Ellen. We all know what
She's
went
on for
down.
10 years, wasn't she?
Yeah, she had a great run.
You really can't stay on that daytime slot much longer than that. She lasted as long as you could.
Before everything went to shit, which is what usually happens, right? Like it just.
Hers is just that she was mean, right? Or
she fostered a workplace of like intimidation and sexual abuse. Her producers were like nightmares.
Oh, there's like sexual stuff too.
Yeah, like and it was like
every fucking time.
Right. There was a lot of abuse. Like you gotta do this favor for me, and I'll do a favor for you. Both men and women. It wasn't exclusive.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it. And the thing that I thought was interesting was that it wasn't just like here is like a few people. It was like 20, 30, 40 employees that were like coming out and being like it was a nightmare to work there. And then 2 people in the industry, comedians were making a good light of it because everybody knew somebody that had worked on the Ellen show that was like
it's been a long time.
Right, it's been on forever. So but it's interesting, somebody who has got such a great image.
So the Neverending podcast, you think we'll never get a shout out on the Ellen show? We only got a year left, I guess, at this point, right? You don't think we could blow up that way, go
when
viral?
she comes back in 5 or 6 years, and because they need somebody to fill the spot, and nobody can do it, pick up the slack, then we'll make it on the next run.
I was trying to come about this so that we can get Harrison on the podcast so that we could blow up and go on Ellen, by the way. Obviously, it would never be me and you. You have to have a child to go on Ellen's
Absolutely.
show.
I would have Harry on the podcast. He'd be great fun. He'd be great
Just sit him down around the table.
Yeah.
Here.
He would probably destroy a lot of this, and I don't think he could sit for the full hour, but it'd be fun to see if we could. Having like a talk, it'd be fun to talk around him. Watch, like he would be in and out of frame because he just couldn't control himself.
Excuse me. I do want to do more concept podcasts. What about if we have one where it's just your children in our seats talking, and we just pretend like
that would be really funny.
Harrison is you and Clementine could be me. Like
that
we'll just put the headphones on them, or halfway through the episode, we'll be in an intense conversation about Palestine and Israel. And then we'll just like switch. We'll have the children.
And then it cuts to them.
And they'll have probably a better take on the whole situation than we ever would.
Really, yeah, that'd be really good. They would just talk about PJ Masks and stuff like, it'd be so simple. It'd be like, but why? Why can't they? Harris would be like, well, why can't they be best friends? We were playing Zelda, right?
Might
like
be needed.
he loves it, and the bad guys in there, he doesn't. They're moblins or whatever, but he calls them monkeys. He's like the monkeys, and so why the monkeys don't be your best friend? You know, he doesn't understand the concept that these creatures want to beat me up.
Is this Ganondorf or is this a different one?
That's my gamer name, Ganondorf. I'm gonna steal that forever. That's great.
Yeah, use it.
But yeah, no, he just loves it. He just doesn't understand the concept. So Israel Palestine, he'd be like, why can't they just be best friends? You know, it'd be really simple for him.
Well, we overcomplicate things all the time. Yeah,
absolutely.
So, God, are you maybe a children's podcast about that conflict is going to be the thing that actually solves that conflict for the first time in 30 years?
Just kids talking about it. Have two kids,
60 years, whatever.
Have an Israeli kid and have a Palestinian kid and have them just fucking sit on podcast for an hour and make everybody watch it, and you would be shocked at how many minds would change and how many things they would have in common, and just like it'd be like, oh, you know,
those sexually harassing scumbag producers at the Ellen Show are going to need a new project after next year, so maybe they can work on that. Just go straight to
them away from the
go
kids.
Straight to the kids. Yeah, it's probably a good idea. I was going to say, just go straight to the kids, though. Why even wait for the internet to bring you talented children? Why not just start a show with talented kids? Like Bill Cosby had like kids say the darndest things.
And it was great. And again, great
Ellen
for
is
his
obviously
image. Right. Yeah, Cosby,
the
Ellen.
closest thing I can think of to Cosby.
Don't have any heroes, because your heroes will turn out to be monsters. Those are two great examples of like comedians, and it's always comedians that are totally broken, right? And they're two comedians who got successful, but at the end of the day,
no, you can't just say that. It's politicians too. It's fucking just.
Oh, I wasn't
famous,
making exclusives.
Anyone famous.
Yeah. I
it's
just
like
think
a fame thing more than a comedy thing. I feel like.
Comedians have a really dark spot. The funnier you are, I think the darker that thing is on the inside. You know what I mean?
Can be. I don't think it has to be that way, because I think you could also.
Comedians are all rapists. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I think that you could have this satire about you if you don't understand why everyone is talking so dark, and even if you are talking about and commenting on the dark things, like in a way it could be because you can see the light. I think comedians definitely have to have a wide swath of perspective.
Yeah,
I think it's
definitely.
there. I don't know if they have, like, if the dark side of that perspective has to be that low, or if they just have to have parts of the dark perspective just to get different colors from that palette. I'm mixing a bunch of metaphors.
You know, you're mixing. No, you're right though. I think that it's important that they have their specific lens, right? The best comedians have their point of view, but they're able to talk about any topic through their lens, right? Yeah. And that's what the best comedians can do. And some of those, like you said, there's some really happy people that do it, and there's some very dark people that, you know what I mean, have their.
Do you think it, like Ellen being like mean and grumpy, she's able to give such a bubbly good talk show because she knows what it's like to be upset? Is this the whole like theory behind the sad comic?
I know
they know the sad clown. They know what it's like to feel a certain way. So
you know, we just talked about Johnny Carson, who everybody loved, and behind the scenes, that guy was a fucking asshole. And I was just, somebody's talking about stories about him, and one of the stories was these two guys he was in like Wyoming or something in the middle of nowhere in his Porsche. This is Johnny Carson, because that's where all the casinos were. They'd play all the casinos, whatever. He was in a snowstorm and he was stuck in a snowbank, and these two guys got him out of the snowbank. And as he got out of the snowbank, he gave them both the bird, or sorry, I can't see it. He gave them both the bird, and they were like, okay. And then he fishtailed out into the snowbank, and the guy and his friend just like drove past him. And it was like, it was a story somebody was telling that their dad met him in this crazy area, but it was just him being an asshole. And that was a lot of it, was like him being an asshole, and you didn't see that in front of the camera. Yeah. But there was a dark side to that guy. He was a philanderer and a cheater and, like, you know, drunk, you know, but like it was a mean drunk too. Talk about Ed McMahon. There was a lot of, you know, he'd always.
I did not say anything about
Ed McMahon being fat.
We talked about Ed McMahon in the last podcast.
Okay, yeah, but you know, you'd call him fat. Anyways, just he had a dark personality, but he was funny and everybody loved him. But
why don't they take someone dark and put them on daytime television though? Like,
well, I don't know if
that existed.
No.
Who would it be? Who would be like a modern, like a Billie Eilish had a daytime show?
Henry Rollins, you know.
Yeah, that's kind of funny actually.
It's a different perspective. That's
sort
a little
of like
bit
an
more
aggressive,
metal
intense,
aggressive, you know.
But extremely like gratitude filled.
Yeah,
and light.
He's a great guy. Right?
Yeah,
that really came out of nowhere. I haven't thought about Henry Rollins in forever. He just literally came in and was like, you know.
I think he's actually a great anti-Ellen if you're going to give someone a show. It's like, instead of a woman who seems nice and then is a huge jerk off, let's get a guy who seems like a huge jerk off but then really is nice. That makes perfect sense. Henry Rollins. Wow. Although, what are they going to call his show? His band is Black Flag. So, what should the show be called? White Flag? Like he's waving the white flag constantly?
No, it's got to be like the Rollins Show or something like that. Henry Rollins.
Rolling with Rollins, and it's like a ripoff of comedians in cars getting coffee.
The Henry Show. Just break it right off of Ellen's.
Ooh, yeah.
The Henry Show.
Rollins does make it like a little bit more...
Rollins,
like, It sounds like a growl or something like that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's a bad guy
Like a
name.
jungle cat.
It's a bad guy name.
Should we put a bow on the hobbies thing?
Sure.
Is there anything that we...
No, that's it. I had just said, because I was a comic book nerd, I had a bunch of... The category was like when... What year did some of these superheroes come out?
Oh, I got...
So go ahead. Give me your...
I have another hobby thing. Just
let's go. Yeah,
on
go
the
ahead.
concept of hobbies. Sometimes, like, you think about guys who are into cars, right? A lot of people that think about cars, main functionality being driving, taking you places. But if you're a dude who's into a car sometimes, the thing that you might be into is actually working on cars. Or the mechanical side, the whole grease monkey type element of car maintenance. Oh, I changed out the carb on this so more air can get in the whatever. It's like, maybe it's changing your functionality, giving you a marginal improvement. But overall, the thing that people maybe love working on, maybe painting a new color, customizing, adding a spoiler, whatnot, it's not what some people actually think of, like, oh, I just love driving. Because the hobby of driving is very different than the hobby of, like,
working on cars.
Totally customizing your car. Yeah. And I think hobbies can be funny like that.
Yeah, because what was it? You just and you made me think about a whole new thing. There are some hobbies that are like okay to have, right? As like a guy, you can be okay. Oh, you're into cars. Oh, that's cool, right?
That's not childish, is it?
Well,
it actually kind of is. Now that I'm an older man, I kind of feel like
working on
that's
cars.
like a 20-year-old
right? Working on cars
type thing. Well, because when you're 20, that's the only thing you can afford is like a hot car. But when you're 30, maybe it's a hot house or
a minivan for your kids.
Hot wife, 40, hot car, hot house.
You know what? There was something else that was about the hobbies. Is there was people who have hobbies. There's a value that they get derived from their hobby, right? They don't just do it to do it. There's a value that they get for it. And like for me, it's like collecting comics. Some of those comics are expensive. There's a value to it. Having nice cars. There's a value to it. I thought that was interesting. But
sorry, you're saying value, you mean Peacock Feather, right? You're saying a social strut point?
Sometimes, but some of it is artistic value. Come back to artistic value, creating an album not to Peacock, but just because you have it in you and you need to create an album. You value that.
I'm being simple using the Peacock Feather thing. I think we need representations of our identity. We need people to see how we feel on the inside in some way.
Right. But ultimately, it is a peacock feather. My giant comic book collection that I can't get rid of is just a giant peacock feather.
What's the difference between the comics, the vinyl, right?
Yeah, right.
The muscles, they're all just collections.
It's just a giant collection that when you meet people who know what you have, that's the people that you're looking to impress, right? Like people are like, oh, wow, that's a lot of comics. But when you see another person who's into comics and they see that and they go, holy shit, you're like, yeah, you know what's up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you like that? When you like those comics?
You like that? That's it's a big fucking collection, isn't it?
Yeah, I put the sleeves on them too. I got the sleeves all on those things. Got them all wrapped up.
Wrap that bitch up. But like going back to cars though, and having like a car hobby, and they have those car shows, and there's people, showing off their cars. That's a peacock feather. Look at my '69 Trans Am, and look at everything I did to it. It's like, ooh, right? Like,
yeah, and sometimes it's not even like necessarily better. Like I saw a classic car show once, and they'd taken a Coke can and were using it as the exhaust for something. Like it was more kitschy. Not that like that's probably the best metal you could use for that, but it's almost like I'm so good with mechanical engineering that I can make a Coke can be my like
tailpipe. Is that
tailpipe.
like a thing from the 50s though, where people would put Coke cans to make a sound? Doesn't it make a sound if you put a Coke can? Like if you cut it and then they do it and it's like and it flutters?
Oh, maybe. I only know the Coke can thing where you cut it in half. Don't try this at home. You cut it in half, like around the cylinder, right in the middle, cross section, and then you like fill it with not to say dynamite, with bottle rockets, or come on, what am I thinking of? Firecrackers.
Okay.
You put a pack of firecrackers in there, and it can like blow the top off.
So that's just how to make an IED.
Shit, technically. Do not follow that at home. Also, I'm talking about being in the fine state of Indiana or Wisconsin. Of course, never doing this in jurisdiction city of Chicago. No one would ever want that to happen.
Absolutely not. So I guess that's hobbies.
No, but acceptable hobbies versus non-acceptable hobbies.
Yeah, totally.
How it changes over time. Video games have classically changed over time.
That was, again, part of the article. Stamp collecting was a huge hobby. Bottle caps. There was hobbies have changed over the years. And like you said, what is acceptable hobbies and what is not an acceptable hobby?
Now collecting photos of your food, like I mentioned earlier.
They were part of it was how the original hobbies were all like knitting, woodworking. Like you would have a thing or a project after the fact. Like you would have a thing that you were making, and that would be your hobby.
Whittling a stick so that old man Johnson could get down the street,
hobbling on his hobby horse.
So the geriatric gentleman in your sapien squad.
But ultimately, hobbies, I think, maybe to wrap up on this, I don't know, but like hobbies are crucial to be humans, I think, because if you don't have hobbies, I think you're fundamentally missing something in the human experience, because you're limiting yourself to just work or just, there's so many things to make your life more interesting. I think it makes me most of my hobbies make me a better person. Not all of them, but most of my hobbies, I think, have added to me and have helped me become a more well-rounded person.
I got to say it, the expression idle hands are the devil's playthings. Yeah, where's that coming from, right?
Fuck yeah.
The fact that if you have all this free time in your life, maybe you're unnecessarily worrying about stuff then. Maybe you're more likely to get co-opted into some sort of Trumpist cult, Q cult, and various Bitcoin cult, Tesla cult. Like you're in the renewable energy cult because you have nothing to actually do in your day-to-day life that allows you to contribute to the idea of renewable energy. Like all the people that write that like stan something like Tesla or something that is a green movement, but then like don't recycle. It's like, why don't you make hobbying your motherfucking or recycling your motherfucking hobby? Like,
because that's not. Here's another topic: virtue signaling with your hobbies, right?
Yeah,
like having a hobby specifically because of the message it sends. We're being very altruistic with the ideas that people have hobbies that it's only for the good of themselves, when that's not always the case, right? People have hobbies that are just not great, right? Like again, having a conspiratorial hobby where you're so deep in the conspiracies and the 5G network, all of that nonsense, and that's your hobby is conspiracies. Not necessarily, I would say, a healthy hobby, you know.
Well, it's because a lot of times it's being fueled and ran by something that's like non-organic, right? It's not your natural intrinsic interest.
And having a corporation as a hobby, having like Tesla as a hobby, that's fine, but what value again do you derive from that? And I guess you could say money, if it's like the stock stuff like that, but like what are you, I don't know, what are you Bitcoin, creating? What are you getting?
Another example,
right?
Like, what? Obviously, it's signaling to people. Yeah, let's not go into Bitcoin, all that stuff.
We could. I just think it's crazy how the current crash.
There's some of that going on.
I wanted to talk about.
There's some of that going on. Yeah, we did talk about it a little bit in our 50th, and it came up a little bit more in my last one.
It's just crazy though how like it just
it has
Elon's podcast.
It has been coming up like week after week on the podcast. It's hitting this critical mass. I found out when I started seeing some people again, oh, you got Bitcoin? Oh, you bought Dogecoin too? Like hearing people who had never even bought stocks. I was hearing friends talk about buying Dogecoin.
It's a very millennial thing.
I'm like, oh, okay, this is bigger than I think. Even when I went to play basketball at a local park recently, we ran into this state senator who was talking about them. He was basically just trying to brag about how we're going to come up with like a crypto tax, and it's going to be the second only legislation to tax gains on crypto. And in my head, I'm like, oh my God, so what the fuck? This thing is not only non-productive, and it's not only disproportionately owned by millennials and Gen Z, younger people, also people of color, by the way. Now they're going to get like disproportionately taxed. Like people are going to come put the clause in it. Like it's at that point of this cycle now. Like this shit's fucking over. Dude, it feels so over. Yeah. Price crashes recently, right? The Chinese government being a major part of that, global politics being like, no, we'll use the digital version of ours.
They can't control it, man. CCP doesn't have control over Bitcoin, and
Right.
once I feel like they realize like, oh, we can't do anything with this. This is like, oh, well, fuck this. Like, why are we wasting all these resources if we can't gain from it?
Yeah.
And America is getting rich off of us mining this for them. Like, what? Why are we doing this? And then how good was it for them to just then slash it and then tank it for us? Like, how much money was lost when they did that? Something like $1 trillion was just vanished. It's very wild.
Vanishing American millennial money. That's a great way to put a tagline on Bitcoin.
Dude, that's it. It is a very millennial though topic, cryptocurrency.
Can I ask what you want to talk? Wait, actually, let's do one more category. I'm just gonna jump in.
Do all of them.
Just a rando. Okay, I got 2 more for you.
All right.
Handwritten.
The Declaration of Independence.
Founding Fathers. Housing market.
Not enough experience. I don't know. When I hear the housing market or like sometimes financial terms.
Well, look, I'm making it. Yeah, by calling it housing market as opposed to like real estate, I'm making it seem more like it's specialty.
Yeah, exactly.
But houses, right?
I have a house. I own a house.
Yeah.
But it's like I feel like it's
enough to participate is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
you're a participant.
But still, it's like one of those things that like it still has like some mystery to me. You know what I mean? Not that there's much mystery, but it's just, it's like that feels like it's.
Saw this thing recently about how a lot of millennials were regretting their home purchases, and that they didn't realize how expensive it was to maintain them and whatnot.
Because everybody rents all the time, and you got to put money in your house, and that washer machine breaks down, and you got to buy a new washing machine, and there's a hole in the wall, and you got to fix the hole in the wall. It's definitely different. But you also have.
You punch a hole in the wall because the price of Dogecoin goes down by a fraction of a cent.
You lost $90,000 in Doge. No, it's funny because like we just installed. Randy was in the office, had her office in the basement for a while, and then she moved upstairs into the family room, and so she wanted to wire her computer, and so I had my friend come over, and we had like a home project where we wired it up and we like hit it. Steve came by and
wired it to the Ethereum network. You're trying to say, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Wired her in, and so she doesn't even know that she's mining Bitcoin on the laptop right now. But that's my nest egg. So while she's working,
God, this video is loading slow.
Why is my computer so slow? Don't worry about it, baby.
Fan won't turn off.
But I didn't have to ask anybody permission to drill the holes in my house. I just drilled a bunch of holes. Yeah. I did what I needed to do, and we did it quick. And I was like, oh, cool. Like a sense of accomplishment. Your house could be a hobby, right? It's another hobby. Keeping upkeep with your house. It is in a way a hobby. Making sure,
Yeah, no, and think of all the men now that pay other men to take care of their home and then spend all their free time drinking in front of the television or whatever the fuck.
We do pay for somebody to mow our lawn. That's the one thing. That's a
great example.
Do. And I don't mow the lawn.
What do you use that time for? What does it go to?
Right, exactly. And I was thinking, what is that time? What do I do at that time? I don't know.
Like, what are you usually doing?
Bullshit hobbies.
Right.
Bullshit hobbies.
It could be that, right? And actually, bullshit hobbies, that's healthier compared to, I was mentioning, even less than a hobby, more of like a destructive behavior type thing, or like an escapism type. It's almost getting into new territory because watching TV, you could view that as a hobby. It is a hobby, but it's getting more complicated in that realm.
Sidebar, I would argue that TV has become a hobby, and 10, 15 years ago,
TV's the number one hobby.
It wouldn't have
people
been
spend 6 hours a day watching TV.
Right.
Yeah.
But I feel like
it's bigger than that. It's like how people learn now and stay like socially engaged. Like it's like grown beyond hobby.
And you collect it too with shows. Have you watched all of this? Have you experienced all of this?
Yeah.
And then being able to trade with people, your thoughts and opinions. But I was going to say maybe like 15, 20 years ago, it wasn't as okay. Like, oh, you just sit around and watch TV all day. Now it's like, oh, what are you binging? And it's a different vibe to it with the timing, the changing of the times,
Yeah.
But anyways,
stop pawing that so much.
Sorry,
I feel like we're getting a little something. Well, I'm hearing.
Yeah,
it.
no, you're hearing it because I'm itching. I'm pulling. I'm trying to remember what I was saying before I interrupted with the sidebar.
No, you don't have to. Talking about the hobby element, like when your gardeners are over.
So I don't know.
What are you usually doing when they're by? Like, is it always like a weekend type thing where you're out and you're not even seeing them?
I don't notice. Yeah, sometimes they're coming and I'm like, oh, they came today, and I didn't notice because they'll come really early in the day or they come really late. It's not like we have a big lawn. They're in and out, right? They're in and out.
If you're watching at this point and you pay someone to do something for you, no one is watching. Number one, and number two, no one pays anyone to do it.
I love it. No one's watching at this point. Shout out Austin. I love you, buddy.
Shout out Austin. Yeah. If Austin, if anyone's ever doing something for you that you should be doing for yourself, what are you doing during that time? Help us out in the comments section. or just text message me.
I can imagine
just as easy.
I'm imagining him cackling with laughter as he's listening to this part of the episode. I'm just like belly laughing.
To hear what his things are.
Great laugh.
We'll get off the hobbies soon, but yeah, I mean, a lot of times, I don't know. We've obviously lost certain hobbies. We've lost maybe the ones that are useful. We're talking about fixing your car, cutting the grass, maybe working on your home. And then we simultaneously have all these other hobbies come in their place, maybe video games, other ones, podcasting. A lot of people podcast now as a hobby type thing.
You know what?
Some are obviously probably better than others. I think podcasting is a healthy hobby because you're like having a conversation with someone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not that it's the only style of podcast, but there's worse things you can be doing with your time. Like this is much more engaging to your brain than television, right?
Right. Than sitting and watching Star Trek again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But never mind. I was going to say Star Trek is actually, and I was going to go on a rant for a second. No.
You're restrained. We're learning restraint.
I'm trying.
52 episodes in.
And then I just forgot what I was going to say. God damn it. The idea though that
hobby gardeners.
Yeah, like you man, I had a really good one.
We're being sold this life of convenience.
There you go. It's back. Millennials, the idea that shifting hobbies in the future, you know, as you grow up, like you said, childish things. Our childhood as a millennial was different from a child from even the 60s and the 70s and their hobbies, which was cars and music. And now you go into the 80s and 90s, you got more video games, more television, more, and those then become the hobbies. You know what I mean? So when you see like the next generation of children, what they're into, that will become the future of hobbies.
Back to your desire maybe to get into music as a hobby. Funny how old things becoming new again.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Definitely.
It's a classic hobby for a reason. And maybe now we're going to be, you know, bedroom beat producers. We're not all going to be strumming acoustic guitars necessarily. But
part of it too
the
is
soul is very much similar.
The flatness of everything too. The accessibility of hobbies now too.
Yeah.
Hobbies are so much more accessible than they've ever been before. You know, you can get into anything. Music production. You want your hobby to be music production? Boom. You know what I mean? Hobbies that might not have been at all accessible 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, 20 years, 30 years ago. I'd say 20 years ago, and that was like 2000 sometimes. And I have to remember that, like, 2000. That wasn't, you know.
Even constantly binging television, the Netflix era, in a way, it's pretty fucking dangerous because it's like pure goodness. No commercials. You know, you can just stay on the good visual vein that is a good Netflix show. And you never have to veer off, or you never get reminded through a commercial that this is very much someone else's agenda, you know, that's maybe being chopped up and being disseminated. Like, it feels like your own agenda when you're binging one show. It's like, this is what my story, what I want to watch right now.
It's your choice. You're not just given stuff. You're choosing to do this thing. You know, I'm choosing to watch Star Trek or Cobra Kai, another shout out show. You know, I'm choosing to watch this, where sometimes when you're just flipping through channels, things are foisted upon you and you don't even want to watch it, right? Advertising, though, I think is really interesting because my parents still watch cable. And so my dad, he loves commercials and he talks about funny commercials. And
my dad does too.
And
did you see this commercial? Nope.
I don't watch commercials.
Not that I used to have that kind of acumen. That's a cultural competency that's fallen away from me for sure.
100%. I used to watch TV because I'd watch TV all night, and then you'd see all the crazy funny commercials, and then you'd know the taglines and all that stuff.
What's the modern like? Did you see that sponsored content where they showed me the bonobos that I was looking at? It's like, no one saw that. No.
It's your algorithm in your Instagram feed, which knows all the things you want, and you don't even realize you're getting sponsored content. Sometimes you're scrolling past it.
Now, instead of comparing commercial funny lines, we just have to compare Joe Rogan episodes or something. It's like shifted in terms
binging television shows. What's your favorite, comedy television show, right? It's just different. And I think we'll see that, progress. In 10, 15, 20 years, my kids' hobbies, I'm going to hate them so much. I'm going to be like, your hobby is making makeup tutorials on YouTube? What is this bullshit, right? Like how is that right? But that's just my judgments because I wasn't growing up in this time when that was a big deal and all that stuff. That's one of her favorite things is makeup tutorials. And again, she's not listening, so she doesn't care. But she was the other day, she locked herself in the bathroom. And I was like, why are you locking yourself in the bathroom? Because she's only 6. She shouldn't lock herself in the bathroom. She was embarrassed because in the mirror, she was pretending she was giving makeup tutorials. And so she was like pretending she was on a YouTube channel. And she didn't want to be embarrassed, so she locked herself in the room, right?
I want to understand what are makeup tutorials to people, because I think makeup in general, it's signaling, right? You're signaling certain things by the way you're making your face look. But it's also very powerful. I mean, I love the concept in theater of like putting a mask on, right? Playing a character. Makeup's very much the same thing.
Super artistic. It's super artistic. It's I mean,
it's just graphic design straight up. You could have, you know, concentric circles or
whatever
design principles shown on your face, like the most intimate canvas in a way.
And you see how makeup is always pushing like fashion and like pop culture forward. People change their makeup, and sometimes some like makeup will be so popular, and then everyone's using that particular like look, like the cat eye. Remember the cat eye look? Everyone, and that just exploded, and then everybody was doing the cat eye look.
It's incredible.
It's another lane of society and another hobby that, like, you know, I don't have any reference with makeup. I get down on her because she's so young, and I don't think she needs to be so obsessed with makeup yet. You know, there is
let it be decreed that a modern female shall have the eyes of a feline.
I don't want her to have to deal with that
all
shit.
men, women, and children will subscribe to this idea.
Dude, one day I'll have the goth. Like, I'll just do the eyeliner around my eyes. Just the goth dark eyeliner.
But even, you know, we made the cat eye, but just eyeliner, too. That the explosion of eyeliner. Yeah. That comes and goes, though. Wasn't it like 80s in, 90s out, 2000s back in for eyeliner? Is that a thing?
Yeah, sure.
For guys, watch the movie when Harry... This is different. I was getting into a different thing with makeup, but... What was the most socially acceptable time for men to wear makeup? Would you say it's got to be now, right?
You're completely forgetting the 1800s when men wore powdered wigs.
Okay, there is one of those historical moments. Okay, always look something.
Yeah, because like, okay, so then you got to look at like the Louis I don't remember, one of the 16th or 15th, you know, in the France, and they would want to be indoors all the time because if you worked outside and you had a tan, it meant you were an outdoor person. So they would wear all the white powdered wigs and the white makeup to look white as possible.
This
and
is perfect for
dot, you know what I mean, and have the rosy cheeks, the rouge on their cheeks, right? And you would look like you were you know, locked away like a fucking translucent vampire. That's what the idea was. That was style, right? That was your signifying, you know, you're signaling your look, right?
Yeah.
But I do think
very funny comparison, especially when we're talking about the hobbies that have become have moved away from the functional element and are just now like purely showing maybe intellectual superiority or like creative interest, openness.
I would say though, but to be fair though, I think it is more than ever okay for like men to wear makeup and to look however the hell they want to look. You know what I mean?
Would you let me powder you before this podcast?
Maybe.
What if I like, well, obviously you wouldn't let me put eyeliner of any kind on you, correct?
No,
I would assume that's a hard no.
Let's go ahead. Yeah, why not? I'd rather do eyeliner than powder my.
But you can get these. You can get certain things like if, especially if I had like 2 interns in here working with us, if they came up to me and then powdered my face, and then one of them came up to you, would you say no? Would you?
I have a Conan O'Brien story. I have a Conan O'Brien story.
What?
When I saw Conan O'Brien live, he was in Chicago for a couple of shows, so I got to see him live. Okay, I don't know if I told the story.
The second podcast in a row you brought up Johnny Carson and Conan O'Brien. By the way, late night.
That's my dream, to be a late night host. It'll never happen. That is the dream. It'll never happen. Whatever. Next, but I saw him live, and it was the first episode that Dave.
If you're
Chappelle,
watching this at night, please comment because Matt is now a late night host.
Okay. Well,
right?
Sure.
Think about
I'm a late night
I was
host.
thinking about that because I had to work on our podcast till 3:00 in the morning yesterday because I fucked up the encoding process like twice or something and like canceled. Like So I really wanted to stay online to get it up. I'm sorry, but continue.
No.
Conan.
I'm gonna put on the ears. I'm a late night host. Okay, so I saw Conan, right, and it was the first time I saw him. I was super excited, huge Conan fan, right? And so in between like the segments, a makeup person came up and started powdering his face, and I'll never forget that he went and he like threw her aside, and he was like, you know, like was like yelling at this makeup person. And that night I went home and did mushrooms, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And it really like stuck with me. It really stuck with me. And I was like, man, he was just so mean to her.
Yeah.
But like now looking back on it, I'm sure, he was literally doing a live show in the Chicago theater, and he was talking to Dave Chappelle, and there were so many things going on, and this makeup person was just like in his space, right? So at the time, I didn't, and imagine him.
That's like I feel like that's a media trope though, is the makeup person that's intruding, like they're trying to take the shine off your eyebrows or something. It's like, get out of my fucking face, whatever. That's like newscasters.
I'll never forget that. And that was like, and I saw him do it between the sets, and I was like, oh my God,
But it
You
feels
realize a
mean. It
fucking
does
asshole.
feel a little bit jerk offish because it's like that's that person's job, is to make you look good.
But again, he's also who he is. And now in hindsight, I can look at the situation and be like, oh, maybe he just was like, I don't need this, and I'm in the middle of something, and why are you interrupting me? And this is, everyone's just trying to do their jobs,
Right.
I still love you, Conan. Don't worry. But yeah.
Can I make up you, Matt, though? You're
Yeah,
letting me
yes,
make up you?
Fine.
Great.
Fine.
Great.
That would be a great pod, is if like you're just normal and then that just slides and I'm in full Victorian gear, powdered wig, and just like a cane with some rubies on my finger.
I want to be able to do everything on this pod. We started today. You sang. You got your singing debut, your songwriting debut, right? Your
Disaster.
lyrical content. No, but that's incredible. That's the stuff. Subtle makeup. Maybe one time, just one of us will have eyeliner on as like a game. See if anyone notices in the comments. Like, is James wearing gorgeous cat eye eyeliner right now?
We should just do a goth episode. We'll just be really dark and goth and like miserable.
We actually now the last few episodes I've been shooting them all in different spots, and I'm just gonna really embrace this, never-ending becoming type thing.
Yeah,
and
you have to.
It would be fucking amazing to over time have so many of these different framings, like us as goth, us as sitting here as clowns. We're just sitting in full clown outfits, right?
But I think that the point
smoking
is
cigarettes and suits.
we have to do our Mad Men phase.
Yeah.
We have to not play up to it. Just be like, yeah, this is just who we are today.
Downplay
right?
it.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
Of course.
Don't even acknowledge the fact that we are dressed as clowns, Ringling Brothers clowns.
Start an episode where I have like blood all over my shirt. You know what I mean? Like
that would be good.
I'm like sweating and panting. Like, thanks for everyone for.
So we do it. Okay, everybody stop listening for a second. So we do it like we had we got in a big fight before the episode, right?
Yeah.
Shirt torn. I got like a made up black eye. You got blood down your lip. And we start heavy breathing and we're like, no, we got that settled. And then we just kind of go into it. Like we just had this big fight. Our tension is just super high strung the whole episode. It's like, whoa, that's intense.
2 minutes in, like
everybody can listen again.
Hand you an ice pack. Yeah, future spoilers.
Somebody comes in with a tourniquet, starts tourniqueting a sliced arm. I just see some really gross makeup the other day. Somebody had a neck. It was like a person with a knife and a girl, and she was standing there. And literally she slit through a girl's throat and it like popped and it was just this like, and you saw like the holes with the blood.
I follow a makeup person on Instagram.
I follow several makeup.
Friend of a friend. A lot of times it goes to gory shit.
It's always gory. It's always
What is with
gory.
that? Like it always has to have like a blood thing.
I think
is it just the titillation that danger provides? I mean, because to me it's gross. It's like torture porny.
It is. But you're creating something that is like forbidden. And you're able to do it where nobody's getting hurt,
Yeah.
And the girl was like playing and like wiping the blood everywhere. And I was like watching her enjoy this like, this like fantasy of her killing this person. And I was like, ooh, that's dark, dude.
Yeah.
But hobbies. That's hobbies. Somebody's hobby. Making up. I'm burping so much from this LaCroix. So that's why I'm touching this so much. I don't know if you notice. I keep trying to not burp into the mic. The LaCroix is delicious, though.
This podcast is sponsored by France. We don't have much time here left. You know how much time we even got going here? We're getting there, right? We're about an hour in now, aren't we?
Yeah. That's like absolutely where we're at.
Yeah. Well, I have a couple more cats.
Let's see what you got.
Not categories. We did the categories. I have topics. More of a topic. We didn't even get to this. I thought this would be like more of a start thing. I just think about how college is like historically new in a way. Like the whole everyone goes to college things. That's been like one fucking generation, basically. Like my parents' generation, it's not that everyone went. Our generation, it feels like everyone went. Like there's that pressure. But even then, like how many generations of humans have there been? And are we now on the trajectory to where people aren't going to be going to college anymore? Where college was most relevant for 2 or 3 generations maybe. And then maybe it means a totally different thing when coding or the trades become significant again. Like how fucking weird is that? Especially just right off the bat. Do you have anything to say about that? The fact that college is like very new in a way and possibly even like going out of style already.
I'm going to disagree with you. I don't think colleges are that new. I think Oxford's been around since like
hundreds of years,
15 something, and that was like the first school in college.
But that's only hundreds of years. Humans have been 20 years old for the dawn of time.
Sure, you know what? And when you come up in that kind of like the idea of
that's where I'm going. I'm going back to hunter gatherer days. I'm taking us back all the way till now. The concept of, and I'm saying this, I want to build to. I'm just going to ruin my hand here. There's kind of a bubble that has formed in, everything's about financial markets. A bubble has formed in the cost of college. It's getting ridiculously expensive.
That I will bite on, and I 100% these endowments and the billions of dollars that are flooding into some of these schools.
And the millennials now that are graduating and then not using what they went to school for. I mean, I don't need a Bachelor of Science in, molecular and cellular biology to be sitting here on a podcast,
Absolutely.
but I do. That's a little ridiculous in a sense. I'm just
talking about microbiology more. The fact that you know that.
I'm using my psychology degree probably a little bit better. Although I will say, for the corona outbreak, it was good to have a little biochem background too.
I didn't know
particle-based science.
It made me really just question all of the things I have said to you when I clearly was probably saying something wrong, and you were like, "This fucking guy knows shit." See, and I'm talking to an expert.
Though. I'm not trying to. No. I'm not trying to make it seem like that either. Where like just because you went to college, you then have that place in society. I'm actually kind of talking about how college has taken maybe a disproportionate place in society where we think it's the must do, but maybe it was the should do for 2 generations.
Yeah, I think, so going back.
Because cost is everything.
Right.
What could you be doing with that time instead? What could you be doing with that money instead?
So if you think about it, a lot of college originally was for rich people, right? To rich people to signify that they were rich and they could go to places of higher learning, right? Yeah. So then that became more equalized when there became more colleges and all that kind of stuff in America. And then the idea was like, these rich people can send their kids to college. Let's send our regular, the middle class to college, right? And then that became like, you can get a job, you can go to college. And then that, like you said, I think that's been around though since this last, I would say, since like the 1900s, right? I'm sorry, not the 1900s, like the early 20th century, like 1910, early on people were trying to get out of because it was education. College was equivalent to education. And now with information and knowledge being so spread out
here we go.
And not so centralized into houses of learning like colleges, you see what you're talking about, where you're going somewhere, you're spending $250,000 to go to Harvard, and you're literally doing it so you can say you went to Harvard and use the connections that you've made in Harvard. I don't think it's because you've learned anything particularly earth-shattering at Harvard. It is you're using the institution to the name of the institution to fuel you further, right? And that goes with all the Ivy League schools, all that kind of stuff.
I heard that argument about MBA programs that largely they're networking groups at this point.
Right.
You're learning similar things in a lot of MBA programs, and if anything, you just have to look at the community power that comes along with having new groups in life when you're in your mid-20s or early 30s when you join an MBA program. Like, it's not as much about the education, the financial modeling that you would do.
Right. Business. Like, business is, I don't want to talk like I know anything about business, but at the end of the day, it's networking, right? Everything is who like
connection is everything to humanity. Just being basic.
Amen.
It's like love is the answer. That's connection is everything. So networking is everything in business, is at least what you're getting in college. And I think that's why college probably will at least stick around. Like, at the very least, it'll be a fucking hang, man.
Yeah.
It's going to be a hang. It's going to continue to be a hang for people who haven't decided maybe what to do with their life yet. Because if you have a contribution or a vocation in society, you don't need to go to college. A lot of millennial types that are lauded being like our leaders now, or at least our high achievers, Kylie Jenner being like first whatever billionaire, female billionaire of a certain age, youngest, whatever it was. Did she go to college? Like, did she have a bachelor in what from who now? I mean,
no, and they also said she inflated her income, that she wasn't really a billionaire, which is a typical millennial thing.
Well, it sounds like she went to USC then if she's doing scam business practice. No, but I mean,
yeah.
All the people we love in laud, I mean, are they necessarily college graduates? So it's
the most successful guy I know, my dad, did not go to college.
Yeah.
And he is incredibly successful.
Yeah.
And the things that he does, you can't teach it in a college. You know what I mean? You wouldn't be able to teach it. I remember there was a person that was working for him that was going to college for the things that my dad was doing, and it was business stuff, and they were teaching him the wrong way. And my dad was like, "What are you doing? Like, why are you doing it this way?" And I was like,
horrifying.
"Oh, this is what they say in the book, or this is what you're supposed to." And it was all backwards.
The only thing that's worse than not learning is learning the wrong thing
incorrectly.
Oh, right. Lord,
incorrectly. But it sucks because you don't even know you're learning the wrong thing, right? Because you go to these
think you're better for having learned in this prestigious-looking building, in this concrete masterpiece.
Not only you're learning the wrong thing, but you're coming out with a sense of superiority that you know the thing that was wrong. You know what I'm saying? And then too, you know, there's a big thing right now with colleges fostering wrongthink. You know, a lot of people don't like how colleges now are hotbeds for Marxism, right? Like that's a new,
the lack of intellectual diversity.
It becomes very
political ideology skewing left a lot of times.
Yeah.
Even economic theories skewing towards socialist concepts, when in reality most of the country and the prominent world systems are still capitalist.
Still capitalist. That's
yeah. And the capitalist system has led to the wealth creation that has created these incredible endowments in Western American universities.
These crazy institutions.
They give them so much fucking free time that they're able to kind of navel gaze and thumb twiddle on Marxism, right?
Have hobbies
in some ways.
You know,
Marxism.
Yeah,
the ultimate
hobbies
hobby.
Is Marxism. Yeah, I just was looking at my Marxism for beginners the other day. Actually, I did. I was flipping through it.
I'm not trying to be simple about it. I know it's more nuanced than that.
No. But at the end of the day, but then two people, you know, I don't know. We don't need to get into that. It's the idea that when you go to college, you think you know everything, and you think because you paid and you did all this stuff that you are just a little bit above, and you know you have a college degree. And not that I'm getting down on college degrees. Good for you. It's important. I think it's great. I want to get my degree. Right?
I'll get down on the college cost to value ratio. The fact that when it's becoming so much more costly and so much less valuable, that you're getting to a point where the decision math doesn't actually equal the same answer. You actually really only want to go to college. And actually, I studied financial planning. And I know to be considered a quote-unquote good loan and like a good use of money, you have to have a specific career track that you're going to college for. Like if you want to become a nurse and you know take home some sort of RN salary, then it makes sense to get your bachelor's in nursing, right? But if you're going for philosophy and you don't know what you want to do, maybe you start a podcast. It's like, okay, you could have started the podcast with that money in that time, right? Like, ends up looking at the relative value of things, the opportunity costs, those pieces.
I think too, there's another point of it is that college, it's almost preys on people and kids at a weak time in their life.
Just looking.
At a weak time in their life when they are at a crossroads, right? I think England, Europe, a gap year, right? Where they take a year off before they go to college, right? And I wish to all hell that I would have done that I would have stayed home a year, that I would have fucking figured some shit out, because I would have hated being at home. I would have figured out, and like, oh, I don't want to, but I really want to do this, right? Instead, I just jumped into college, still didn't really know what I wanted to do. You know, I followed some friends to college, and I knew that I wanted to do kind of that stuff, you know, which was this. It was radio, television, film. I went to Columbia, but I was not anywhere near ready to like go to school full time, you know. Now I wish I had all that money I wasted, because I would go to school now and I would know what I was getting out of it, you know.
And the technology has been democratized to the point where you could afford like 10 sets of podcast equipment, right? Like you could start this studio with what it would cost to go to Columbia now, right?
Start 2 studios. Like, yeah, man. The amount of money I spent on Columbia, it's just like,
just taking the art school example. Why don't you just take what it would cost you to go to art school and open a fucking studio? Right. Sponsor yourself, give yourself basically an endowment to work as an artist for 6 years or 4 years. Maybe you could, you know, keep the burn time. It could last longer if you have low overhead, whatnot.
Which is exactly my point. They took I don't want to say they took advantage of me, but like, you know, didn't know what I wanted to do. College.
They didn't take advantage of you at art school. They just juxtaposed the difference between.
But it's just the idea that like, you know, you need to go to college, Matt. You need to go to college. Go to college.
Yeah.
And I think, again, over the last 20 years, we've kind of taken our foot off the gas on that a little bit. You know, I don't think it's
I'm hitting kind of an old concept at this point. In season 1 of Silicon Valley, there's this funny scene where they have like a guy like just giving a whole audience a group of advice, like never go to college. College is a waste of money, whatever, waste of time. And people are like, you're being really irresponsible by promoting this. Like, you can't just blanket say no one needs to go to college anymore, which I'm not saying either.
No, but I think...
But the cost benefit is a whole different ratio in 2021 versus 2011, even when I went.
Yeah. There's just a giant bubble, you know? And like, you saw it with with COVID happening, which we almost got away with not talking about. I shouldn't have brought it up. But how it...
The what now?
No. What happened? What?
Nova, dude.
A lot of these colleges, kids weren't going. It sounded like NOLA.
No vid for COVID. Yeah, no more videos about COVID.
But just, well, real quick. But, how colleges had to deal with that. And lower turnaround, like lower people signing up for college and all that stuff. And then, all the college testing that had to be done, that had to be changed because people weren't taking the tests because they weren't, you know what I mean? It threw that whole system of finance and money upside down, right? And then there's colleges like Harvard who have like $8 billion. And it's like, they were like, we're running out of money. And it's like, well, you guys got huge endowments. You have incredibly successful people. You guys aren't out of money. You know?
They're running out of their monetary expectation. They're not actually running out of money. They have the most insane endowments. Those are like hedge fund fodder 101.
Hell yeah, dude.
All those endowments.
But again, once you pay to play, now you're in the group. And so you paid to play, so now you have all access to all the networking and that club. You know what I'm saying?
I can't believe Donald Trump. I hate to bring him up. Oh, we almost didn't say Trump either.
Trump and COVID. We were so close, guys.
Not, we're over an hour at this point, so you're
okay.
allowed to literally say anything. We can bring up the most annoying topics that everyone's heard 1,000 times because no one's listening.
Cool, because I got comic book characters and that is Marvel and stuff, so we can do that at the end.
But I can't believe Trump owned a for-profit college, that he already participated in this bubble motherfucking shit.
You can't believe that? Because I can believe it.
Oh, it just cracked off. Yeah, well, we need to wrap up anyway soon. So
okay.
let's give another
runway
5 to 10. I have the main cam still on.
Okay, no big deal. Well, nobody's going to see me. That's fine. I've been looking at this camera anyway, so it doesn't matter. I'll try to focus on that one. But no, it does make sense. How could you not believe that Trump had a for-profit college? That kid would he'd have
I mean, it seems like the college bubble should have burst already, but no, we're still funneling money. In fact, now they're just using paying for college as like a political hot potato that they're throwing around.
Well,
which is fucking nuts. It's like you're just gonna make it more expensive.
AOC keeps talking about college forgiveness. He just wants Biden to sign it off. So federal forgiveness on all student loans.
The federal, I mean, I don't know. It's confusing to me. Pete Buttigieg, I know this was like a liberal discussion point when he was running for president because he actually wasn't for people paying for college, in part because rich kids are actually the ones that don't pay. The grants more often go to the people who have financial needs. So if college is free for everyone, and it was already free for the low income kids, now it's just also free for the rich kids, which is a further financial advantage. So that's like kind of wacky. It's like, isn't this the moment where you do want to be hitting up Moneybags McGee for their tuition? Like that's supposed to be part of the system that we have in place for normal incentives.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's
not that we need to go into failed presidential candidates' college payment proposals, but he's the transportation secretary.
I was just gonna say, don't you mean Secretary of
around.
Transportation, Pete Buttigieg?
He's still around. He's gonna
they
clearly run for president again one day.
You took the words out of my mouth.
Can I hit you with one more topic?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Shoes. Talk to you about shoes. Duration, number of pair. Usage. We talk about hobbies. Some people having cleats, some people having running shoes, some people having.
I knew a sneakerhead.
That's a hobby. Sneaker collecting, sneaker selling. People are like sneaker hustlers now.
So that's what he did. He would buy and he would sell, and we would talk about sneakers. And I mean, the shoe game is huge, dude. It's huge. That's a new that is an interesting hobby in and of itself because it is definitely cultural. It's a cultural hobby, and you see certain figures with their shoes, and you want the shoes that they're wearing, and they're like big buku money, and like there's certain styles.
Enough about other people. Let me ask you, Matt. How do you feel about shoes? Do you feel like
I'm wearing them? I'm wearing them.
You wear shoes? Yeah,
I like shoes.
I wasn't gonna ask if you weren't wearing shoes. If you were barefoot, I was gonna probably ask about. Nail cutters.
If I could be barefoot all the time, I might be one of those.
I'm
people.
barefoot a lot. I like to be barefoot when I can.
I do too. Got my habit feet. No, I like.
Were you ever a shoe guy? Do you feel like you have a large collection? Where are you? Do you think in the public?
So I'm not one of those guys with only one pair of shoes, and they just, I used to be that where I'd have one pair of shoes and I'd wear them to death. I had a pair of Airwalks in middle school that they were literally falling apart, and I was like, no, I don't want you to buy. Yeah. I had these green slip-ons I got from the Gap, and I wore those until they literally fell apart on my feet one day.
I had a pair of Hush Puppy slip-ons at a certain age.
Yep. And but now I have multiple pairs. I have like a pair of boots. I have a couple of nice pair of dress shoes. I have my Sperry's, which I really like, these mint green ones. Yeah. I don't want to. It's not a collection of shoes, but it's like I have a variety of shoes. So if I'm feeling a certain way, I can have that particular shoes.
Do you feel like you're happy, or like the amount of shoes you have is normal, whatever that means?
I mean, relatively. I mean, I mean, like for like somebody in like a third world country, I probably have way too many fucking shoes, right?
I appreciate you making it global. Yeah.
Yeah, no, like, I have probably like 10 pairs of shoes.
Keeping it to American shoe culture though, because even that really changes it a lot.
Again, I'm sure I have more shoes than, because what's the thing of problem I have is I don't throw anything away. So I really have pairs of shoes. I have a pair of, my grandma got me for Christmas one year. I wanted funky socks and funky stuff. So she got me Iron Maiden slip-ons by Vans. And I don't like Iron Maiden, but they're just funky shoes, and I could never throw them out. So they just sit there, unworn, just there.
Interesting.
But I can't throw them out. My grandma gave them to me,
The sentimental element. Do you have work shoes?
I used to have work shoes.
Do you have paint shoes? Like sloppy?
Yeah, right. Yeah. But there's definitely shoes that I would wear specifically to work when I was doing work and that kind of stuff.
Signaling, a lot of shoes are signaling, right? Like I have money.
Oh, yeah, right.
I have taste.
Right. Yeah, that's why I'm wearing these, right? Because these are nice. If you're on camera and you're seeing my funky shoes, it's like, oh, he's got some funky shoes right now, right?
Well, like, they're fun. They have a color, too, and this is a highly visual format, so
that was part of it.
That's appreciated.
I didn't want to wear
I think they might be cut off, by the way.
That's fine.
Get it up there once. Yeah.
Ooh, I got it in yours. Look at that. I can kick. Anyways, somebody sell my balls.
That's incredible. That's cool. We need the views, man. We need the views.
Yeah. Anything for the pod.
We should wrap this up just in case that did turn off.
Yeah.
I'm going to have the newscaster set up. Matt, thank you for coming over and talking shoes with me.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Talking hobbies with me. Talking college, the meaning of college. We had some good shit.
The meaninglessness of college.
We had some good shit.
Yeah. I had fun, even though you made me sing. Whatever.
Oh, one thing about this podcast I want to do a great job of is asking questions about things that we don't always know the answer to. Because a lot of times it's very... it's often that you want to make it seem like you have information and answers to things. I think especially as younger men like we are, and like obviously we're here to make a statement too. You can't just be here the whole time like, oh, I don't know. That's not good either. You need a balance of like assertiveness and knowledge, but also like curiosity and inquisitive nature. That being said, I want us to each ask 2 questions about shoes that we're not going to answer, but just to put the questions out there, just as like a mental exercise. So I'll go first.
Yeah, 2 questions.
What is an appropriate number of pairs of shoes for the modern 30-year-old American to have? That's the first question. Don't have to answer it. Do you want to give us one?
Do we even need shoes?
Excellent.
Still looking at that camera.
Do shoes age out? Meaning that once you've worn them for a few years, they're like not healthy to wear anymore. Like the foam is just too fucked up to keep your foot healthy. The fabric is just putting it so that you're about to get injured. Its parts are moving that aren't supposed to move. Maybe there's like bacteria that's built up that's just causing a smell.
Show me a pair of Pilgrim shoes and I'll show you a disgusting, outdated pair of shoes.
Pilgrim ones. What's your final shoe question?
Will there ever be just one singular shoe? Like, will we ever get to a point where, like,
I love it,
humans just unify and there's just the one shoe that we're all wearing, and it's just the most comfortable, perfect shoe, and it's just that's it?
What if we talked about we kind of found a way to talk about the Israel-Palestine conflict, like in parts or like on the periphery? What if everyone having the same shoe over there would make them feel like they're all on the same team?
Pretty sure everyone's
that is
wearing
the
sandals.
answer.
Pretty sure everyone's wearing sandals already, so I don't know.
Yeah, but what if it's like, leather, like thong type sandals versus leather slide sandals?
The problem is
you need
Israelis
the exact same shoe, dude.
Keep rocking these flip-flops, and I don't think Palestinians have really seen the joy of a good flip-flop. They still have that the toe band, and it's just too constricting.
I like that though. One shoe to rule us all. One shoe to unite us.
Unify us.
Very good. Well, thanks again, Matt.
Hey, anytime. Happy to be here.
Till next time. Bye. Yeah, you got to say bye to the far one. Say bye to this one.
I did. Correct. Bye. The one time I was correct.
Bye.